Hello. Welcome to the Fraudcast on cyber fraud and some extra bonuses in this presentation. This is the second in our series of 6 presentations on fraud. The next one will be on banking and fraud. I'm Gretchen Batra, a volunteer with AARP Fraud Watch in the Mountain Region. And we have all our technical assistance by our wonderful staff person, Rebecca Chaplin, and we couldn't do all this without her. So I'd like to introduce you to Sharon DaCosta and Nicole Dennis, who will be doing the presentation. And Sharon, you're with the United Way of North Carolina. And can you just explain a little bit more how the 211 ties into the fraud with Nicole, because that's a neat affiliation.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for having us, Gretchen.
You're welcome.
We are so glad to be here. So like Gretchen said, my name is Sharon DaCosta. I'm the program manager at NC211 at United Way of North Carolina. And before I get into the cybercrime work, I'd like to tell you a little bit about NC211 and United Way. So NC211 is an information referral system that's available to North Carolinians all across the state. We are present in all 100 counties. We are available 24/7, 365 days of the year.
Wow.
We have a trained call specialist who on every call, they use their skills in active listening, data collection, needs assessments, and information delivery. And we have a huge database of health and human service resources that's available for all 100 counties. And what we've seen is every year, the topmost needs are usually food, utility assistance, and housing. And in 2020 itself, our call specialists handled more than 206,000 calls. Additionally, we also have our online database that's where people can go and search for information on their own. And we saw that, I think, especially because of COVID, we had like more than 727,000 searches on our resource base. So that's about 211 in brief. And with regard to our cybercrime work, because we have this huge resource database of health and human services, we are available to people who have been unfortunate victims of a cybercrime. We are available to them to help them recover from a cybercrime. So for a lot of people, when they lose their finances due to an unfortunate cybercrime incident, for a lot of people, it could mean their entire life savings or their monthly paycheck, for instance, and they might not have resources to access food. So we, from our end, because of
they come together,
so that's how we sort of help people meet their emergency needs that they may have.
Do other states have this affiliation as well?
Yeah, we are. The similar affiliation is present in 6 other states, if I'm not mistaken. Nicole, you can talk a little bit more about that.
That's great. So North Carolina is right at the top of an integrated system. That's terrific. Yeah. Well, Nicole, I guess you with Cybercrime Support Network, this is where you jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Dennis, program director for this cyber initiative that we partnered with NC211. So I'll tell you about Cybercrime Support Network. I know you've probably absolutely heard about United Way and 211, but I'm probably less familiar with us. So Cybercrime Support Network, or CSN, our mission is to serve individuals and consumers and small businesses impacted by cybercrime. And we are working with other national partners like United Way to be able to support cybercrime victims both before, during, and after a cyber incident. And so that's where our partnership with 211 comes in. We want to be able to help people after the incident and help them with additional resources. Like Sharon said, we're in 6 other states, including North Carolina, Rhode Island, Mississippi, Michigan, Florida. And so really the way that we work is we are providing resources to victims to be able to increase cybercrime and fraud reporting and address the lack of information to law enforcement and industry with a national reporting structure.
Great. AARP Fraud Watch has some of the similar features. We also do fraud in, all the other kinds of fraud, whereas you focus on cyber fraud. So that's good. So it makes sense for all of us to be talking to each other, plus reporting to the authorities, because the only way we stop this is if it gets reported. If people don't report, it's as if the cyber crime or other kinds of fraud never happened. So that's terrific. Well, can you give us some examples? For example, online shopping scams. We want to look at what the scam is and then how to protect yourself from it. So I know lots of people shop online now. So you got any good examples of fraud that's happened?
Yeah, so first I'll let you guys know what is an online shopping scam. It's pretty much, if you bought something online and you never received it, or when you received it, it doesn't arrive as it was described online. And so pretty much online shopping scam, you've made the transaction, but the item or service that you paid for is not what you expected it to be. We actually have an example of someone in North Carolina experiencing an online shopping scam where he was looking for a car on Facebook Marketplace, and he contacted the seller because he was interested in the car, and the seller said they had an account on eBay, and they wanted to go through that channel and that they would deliver the car. So their deal was basically that the seller would provide the car to the buyer for 5 days, and the buyer could, check out the car and decide if they wanted it. But in order to do that, the buyer had to send $800 in eBay gift cards to the seller, and the seller would hold the money until the buyer decided whether they were satisfied with the car. And if the buyer decided they weren't satisfied with the car, then they would mail the money back through a certified check seller. Well, once the buyer sent the money, the seller claimed that there was problems shipping the car. And then the seller also claimed that the car was really worth more than the original price and that they didn't have enough insurance on it. And so they asked the buyer for $400 more. The buyer said no, but he offered to put insurance on the car since he had the VIN number. Once he did that, the seller stopped taking his calls or even responding to his text messages, and pretty much the buyer had only corresponded with them through text, so he hadn't actually talked to this person. And now that he's trying to call them, they would not pick up his calls, and essentially he was out of $800 and he never received the car. So within that real life example of a person in North Carolina experiencing an online shopping scam, it falls into the main examples of what you see in online shopping scams. So a lot of times there'll be a fake website. You clicked on a link on Instagram or something like that, and you go to buy a shirt, and you pay the money and you just never get it. But that's because the website wasn't actually a shopping website. It was just there to take your money. And then eBay and PayPal scams are very rampant, very common for people to scam in that way, which was one red flag when the person was on Facebook Marketplace, but they wanted to move to eBay rather than do the transaction on Facebook where they originally had posted the item. Another example would be counterfeit merchandise. So say you ordered a brand name bag or designer clothing or something like that, and when you receive it, it's actually a counterfeit item. It's not really genuine, whatever the designer item it is. And then, of course, we in the news a lot, you hear about these gift card scams. When somebody wants you to pay with gift cards, that is a huge red flag. Don't do that because gift cards are untraceable. And once you've paid that money, you can't get it back.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The minute you hear the word gift card, I just tell people stop, stop, stop. And a lot of this happened initially with COVID, where people were sending for masks and cleaning products and all of that, and they never got the thing. So, but $800 is a lot to lose.
Yeah.
And it's, emotionally, you get ripped off financially, emotionally. It's a really sad situation. So on online shopping, people need to be very, very careful that they're at the right site, and that they check out the address from which things are being mailed, because a lot of times they're fake addresses. So yeah, great. Well, let's see. We've got other kinds of scams and so forth, like imposter scams. Oh, that's a big one. Tell us, do you have some case studies about imposter scams?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are different types of imposter scams. So I'll give you a couple examples of those.
Okay.
There's one where somebody will pretend to be a friend or a family. They'll send a message and they'll pose as your relative or your friend, either calling you or texting you and asking for you to wire money immediately for an emergency, or like getting out of jail, paying a hospital bill, or needing to leave a foreign country. And pretty much their goal is to have this sense of urgency that is going to trick you to sending money before you realize it's actually a scam. So someone actually in North Carolina, a 75-year-old woman, she connected with someone by text who appeared to be one of her friends, and they claimed that she had won a prize, sweepstakes for a total of $90,000. And she was very excited by this, and she thought this was someone that she could trust. She thought it was her friend. And so the person told her to send money in order for them to send her prize to her. So the caller got money in the form of untraceable gift cards, and she used her credit cards to purchase the gift cards, and she ended up spending a total of $150,000. Then once she realized she wasn't going to receive the $90,000 prize, she was obviously very frustrated and upset. And she ended up contacting the Federal Trade Commission and the FBI, and they've begun investigations. But she's pretty much very close to going bankrupt since she sent such a very large amount of money. And it was pretty devastating for her. She's very, upset, and there's not much she could do since she, sent it in the form of gift cards. So that was just, one example of how, you could easily fall into, thinking someone is your friend and they're not.
Right. Well, who else contacts, imposters? There's a lot. I've heard a lot. Like I've gotten back a year or so ago a lot of calls from the IRS. And
so that's another type of imposter scam where they pretend to be a government agency or law enforcement, and they request either personal information, or they threaten arrest, lawsuits, those sorts of things, just to get someone to feel like they have to comply with their demands, whether that's giving them money or information. So that's another type of imposter scam.
Yeah, my understanding is that they put people in the ether. Either it's something very exciting, like you won a sweepstakes, so you get all excited and follow through with the instructions that the fraudster gives you, or else it's threatening. Like the IRS, they say that you owe money and you've got to pay it. It's the weekend, and you've got to pay it by Saturday, or you're at risk of getting arrested. Same thing with jury duty. I've heard about people being told they missed their jury duty appointment, and they're at risk there too. So they either scare you or they make you excited. And so what do you do about, the ether thing? How do
it's kind of, you need to, stay vigilant. You got to stop and think a little bit before you end up, complying with any kind of request, whether it is exciting or it's, a little bit scary. So yeah, I just stop and think, does this sound too good to be true, or is this a little extreme? Would the police actually ask me for something like this? Would the IRS actually call me, or do they contact me in a different way usually? Including your banks as well. That is something that people have experienced as well. So when calling and pretending to be their bank, and but then they're asking them for information that their bank should already have. And so just thinking about, things like that when you receive calls, or you're receiving a call you're not expecting, why would your bank be calling you? Like, you have to just stop and think about, the different situations you could possibly be in.
Yeah. And of course, that's easier said than done when you're panicked, especially like this is a grandparent call. You think, and that's another one. So, besides stopping and thinking, are there other things to help people avoid the imposter frauds?
Sure. I mean, if you just making yourself more aware, we all receive, these kinds of scam calls, robocalls, stuff like that, and talk about it with your friends. Share the stories that you have. Don't keep it to yourself. That definitely helps people, realize that it's real. These things happen, and just keeps you more alert, because if you don't realize that it's something that could happen, of course, when somebody calls you, you're probably going to believe that they are who they say they are, because why wouldn't they? Except maybe you talk to your friend or your sister or something, and she's like, man, I got this call the other day from the IRS, and it's like, oh, well, they just called me too. That's interesting. It's something to keep it top of mind, and just remember, that these things happen. Like you were saying with the grandparent scams, also ask questions to the people that call you. If they're calling you and they say your grandchild is in jail, well, ask them which jail are they in? If they can't tell you that one, that's a problem. Or if they tell you they're in a state where they don't actually live, that's also, it doesn't make sense. So, don't be afraid to, be inquisitive. As well as, with government agencies and police, if they call you, ask questions. Those real entities are there to help you. So they'll have no problem with answering your questions. And if they're, legit, then they'll answer your questions for you and things will make sense. And also just be sure to think about, if your utility company calls you or something like that, and they ask you for your social security number, that doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, does it?
Right.
And then, of course, like with fake contests, lottery, winning prizes, stuff like that. Did you enter a contest? How are you just winning, all of a sudden? So just if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is.
Right. And all of these things can come in over the internet. So again, since we're focused, I guess we got into the phone call thing, but also they come in over the internet, and so that's a problem. Okay, now we just got through Valentine's Day, and
Gretchen, if you don't mind, before we get the next question, I think we have a question from one of our viewers. If we could take that, and then we could probably move to the next one.
Okay, I'm trying to see where I can find that.
This is from M. Fillmore, and
it looks like he says, does CSN work with the North Carolina Attorney General's office?
Oh, okay. Right at the
yes,
bottom.
we have in the past. So that's a great question. They've definitely been a good partner.
Yes. Yeah, and I can add to that and say that we have been in touch with the Attorney General's office. In fact, even so, we've been in touch with them to because they have their fraud hotline. So we are in conversation with them to forward the calls where when, like I mentioned before, when people have been a victim and they lose a lot of their financials. So if they need any additional support, we are in touch with the Attorney General's office to let their hotline specialists know that they could refer those calls to us, and then 211 can then help victims in that way, like if they need any any sort of support, any sort of financial support or food referrals in their communities, we can help them find those resources.
Yeah, the more we network, all of the fraud fighting agencies network together, the better to share information. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So back to Valentine's Day and the romance scams that don't just happen on Valentine's Day. What about those? How do people get tied up in problems?
Yeah, so a romance scam is essentially when someone gains the confidence of someone else, forms a friendship, possibly even a romantic relationship, but their motive is to obtain legal or financial benefits from that person. So this is a huge one in terms of for older adults, especially during COVID, with people being isolated, reaching out to others online, find connections in that way. So I can give you guys an example of someone in North Carolina who experienced this. This person met someone online, and she states that that individual wanted a relationship, but she didn't. And after some time, she realized that he was actually a professional scammer who records interactions online for blackmail and will take over the social media accounts of the person that they've been talking to. And through that can actually, obtain financial information that she received charges on her credit card that she never made. And she ended up having to cancel her card. And this person, once she canceled her card, started harassing her because his funds were turned off, and she had to actually, she ended up calling the police and actually starting a whole investigation. But a lot of times romance scams occur on social media, people contacting each other through messaging on there, dating sites, obviously, and also just receiving unsolicited text messages. So some of the red flags to look out for, just to see, whether it's you or someone that, has recently started, talking to someone new online. One of the red flags is that they declare their love very early on, after only, a few messages or even, a few weeks of knowing each other. Another red flag is they ask for money. Usually gift cards, and a lot of times it's for some sort of emergency bill, some sort of unfortunate circumstance, or for them to say that they want to come visit you, they live in a foreign country or, somewhere far away from you, can you pay for my flight or something like that. And then another red flag is that they constantly cancel or postpone plans to meet. So although, they say they want to meet you and they, you guys make plans to it actually never happens. A lot of times you only chat using email, text, or phone, but you've never actually seen this person. And a lot of times, going back to the money thing, is they'll ask you to wire the money or set up a new bank account. And they are, extreme kind of cases of why they need the money, like I said earlier. And so if you do suspect that you are, involved in a romance scam, or you might have come across one, or somebody, has, started talking about this new person, here's some tips to, what you should do. If first, you should stop communicating with the person immediately, block their number, block their email, their social media accounts, so they, can't contact you. Talk to someone you trust as well. So let your family or friends know about it, just so they're aware of what's going on. And then even if early on, you can do a search, a reverse image search of the images that you have of this person, and you can see if they come up on other profiles online, or if they're attached to, other websites and things like that. See if they are associated with another story, just to, verify that this person is real. And you can also do that with any information they've given you, like their job or something like that. Search that and see if the description and things like that are accurate to what kind of stories they've been telling you. And then if you've ever sent any money or anything like that, be sure to contact your bank and change or close any compromised accounts. And always keep all documentation, information, messages, pictures that you've sent with this person, so that when you do report it, then you have information that law enforcement can work with.
Yeah, that's a lot of things, and we don't want to scare people, but as you said, we're trying to alert them and share information. Also, the ARP magazine and the bulletin, every single month, they've got information about fraud. So, in the newspapers, there's information all the time to help protect yourself. And I always say, share, 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 shred, 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 and report, report, report. Because if we don't get the information out there, and the other thing that's really amazing, about a year and a half ago, there was a conference in Washington about voice cloning. So now there being, ways to clone your voice. And that's another, I tell you, the creativity out there is amazing. So how do you have better security in terms of cybersecurity? What are the points there?
Yeah, so there are a few things. One major one, which has been touted by lots of technologists, is multi-factor authentication on your accounts. So that includes having something so that would be a password, and something you have, which would be like having a code sent to your phone or another email address. So that way, that just because somebody knows your password doesn't mean that they're able to log in. They have to verify that it's actually you by having another, authenticator. So that's a huge one. Microsoft did a study a few years ago, and it's 99% effective if you have multi-factor authentication to be able to keep your accounts more secure. Also, keep your software updates. I know we get all those, notifications from your phone, your computer about making sure that you do your updates. They take some time, but they are there to increase your security. The updates are patching known vulnerabilities that have come up that bad actors are looking to exploit. And so those software patches are there to protect you. So just be sure to, update those when those come around. Also, be aware about avoiding phishing attempts. If you get an email or a text from someone you don't know or that you're not expecting, or from someone you do know, but maybe be sure to look out for misspellings or odd requests. Make sure that the email address is actually the email address you usually get from them. Just because it says it's from Nicole Dennis, if it's not my usual email, it's probably not me. And just be wary about clicking on links that you're not expecting. Hover over them to see if the spelling's correct. It might say that it's Facebook, but it's got 3 O's instead of 2. And those could be easy to miss. Or is it Apple emailing you asking you to change your credentials to log in? How about you go to Apple and do the actual website rather than clicking on the link in that email that you received, just to make sure that it's the right site. Another tip would be to use unique passwords. I know we've heard this, but one easy way to do this is to use passphrases as opposed to trying to use your dog's name and initials and favorite numbers and stuff like that. If you use a passphrase, an example could be the red fox runs up the hill. Something, it's long, but it's easy for you to remember, but it's a lot harder for hackers to crack because it's not just, string of numbers or something like that, or some information that, like personal information that could possibly be on your Facebook. Like you've probably posted pictures of your dog. People know what your dog's name is, things like that. Another tip would be to protect your mobile devices. So whether that's your phone, your tablet, a lot of us do, our banking or bill pay on these devices. So make sure that you have trusted security tools installed on them, passwords, and be sure, not to have a spreadsheet on your computer with all your passwords on it, or just don't save all of your passwords in the Chrome browser, if you're not protected, because there are keyloggers and things like that that can, read all of the passwords that you have saved in your browser. So those are just a few, quick ones that would help do better security. They're fairly simple. We actually have a website called Scam Spotter, which we partnered with Google to create, and it has several of these tips on there, and it walks you through on how to do them. It's actually geared towards older adults. It's really easy to use, and it's really helpful to be able to help yourself, be more secure.
Yeah. Is there a way that we could put that on the aha? See, Rebecca's right on top of everything. That's terrific. That's a new one to me. Well, the bewitching half hour is here. So, as you said, slow down, don't, breathe, check things carefully, and, don't forward things or send things that you're not sure about. I mean, don't spread the problem to other people. So I want to thank both of you for coming today. You have, between the two of you, it's a wonderful service. So Nicole can help people with the cyber fraud. And if they, like back to the person with the car, that $800 could have put him in really difficult financial situation. So Sharon has all the resources with 211 that might be of help to them in terms of financial recovery or support systems. So I thank you so much, both of you, and tune in next week, same time, and hear about banking, trends in banking, and banking fraud. So thank you both so much, and thank you to our audience, and goodbye.
Thanks for having us, Gretchen.
Thanks, everyone.